dream. One swimming up, one swimming downstream. The Pisces life, the Pisces life. Two fish living in a dream. One swimming up, one swimming downstream. The Pisces life, 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 the Pisces life.
Welcome to a special celebrity edition of the Pisces Life podcast. We're just two fish living our dreams in these podcast streets. I'm one of those two Pisces hosting this show. I am just Letitia. And on the other mic, we have my sis swimming around.
Peace, y'all. It's Kai Love.
All right, now you are in for a treat this episode. I hope you're sitting down. Tonight, our special guest has put his name on the map in the creative world of hip-hop and poetry. He was the first African-American poet from Chicago to rep the city for HBO's Def Poetry set. He's been the poet laureate for the Ernie Barnes exhibition in California. He's the author of Dear Father, Breaking the Cycle of Pain. That's about exploring the power of forgiveness and launching the Dear Father project. We're going to talk about that too. He's been named the winner of a Peabody, Clio, and NAACP Image Award for his work on the mic. You've also seen him during halftime a couple of years back during the Super Bowl in a 2018 branded spot for the AARP. Brother, I almost ran into the TV. I said, he looked familiar. He sound familiar. I know him. But you've also seen him. He shared the stage with the likes of Prince, Sia, Dougie Fresh, and two of our favorites, Erykah Badu and Jill Scott.
Sure.
So let's welcome Chicago's own Jay Ivy.
What's happening? How you feeling?
We're doing good, brother.
We are doing good.
It's good to be here with my fellow Pisces.
All right now, March born as well.
Yeah. I'm 303, March 3rd.
All right. I started off at the first of the month. Kai, bring it up in the end.
Yes, March 20th, last day.
Couldn't wait to slide that one on there.
That's dope.
Pisces in the house. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to jump ahead into these questions so that we can be respectful of your time. So your list of accomplishments is already impressive and growing for those who may be new to you and new to the craft of poetry as an expression, which of course, if you're new to poetry as an expression, people, get your life. Like, what are you doing?
Okay.
Talk about it.
Tell us how you got into and have maintained your presence in this craft of poetry and spoken word.
Yeah, well, for me, it was a very organic beginning. Poetry wasn't something that I sought out. It was something that found me, I guess you could say. I'm a hip hop baby. You know, I grew up on hip hop and MCs and storytelling, you know, like Slick Rick and Tribe Called Quest and NWA and Public Enemy. But it wasn't until high school, my junior year of high school, I had an English teacher named Miss Argue. And I went to Rich Central, which is in the south suburbs of Chicago. And what I discovered when I met Miss Argue is that you're not going to argue with somebody named Miss Argue.
True.
So Miss Argue, one day she assigned the class a homework assignment to write a poem. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't into poetry, like I said. So I go home not knowing what to write about. And I look out the window, I see some clouds. I'm like, I write this poem about these clouds I see outside my window just to get, you know, through the homework and get done so I can get back outside and go play ball, run around with my boys. So the next day I come to class expecting to turn my homework in, and she surprises the class, and Ms. Argue has everyone read their poem in front of the class. So I was a very shy kid, you know, I don't know if it's a Pisces thing, you know, but I was you know, very kind of to myself. It took me a minute to warm up, you know, but I was super scared to read this silly poem about these clouds in front of the class. Mm-hmm. So I rushed through, read my poem. After class, Ms. Argue, she approaches me and she pulls me to the side and says, Well, one, she gave me an A on the poem, and I wasn't getting no A's and no B's at the time. I was like,
tell the
damn.
truth.
I was
Tell
like,
the truth now.
right, I was like, wow, I got an A on something? Wow. You know, I ain't seen this since grade school. I ain't seen no A's in a minute, you know. So, and then she told me I had a nice speaking voice, and she said, I have a show coming up. I want to put you on this show. And again, I was very shy and a scared little kid. I was like, nah, I ain't trying to do no show. So I didn't do the show. That time passed. Ms. Argue approaches me a few weeks later, and she says, you know what, last time I asked you to do a show, you faked me out. I got another show coming up. This time I'm not asking you. You have to do it. So Ms. Argue makes me do the show. My first time ever on stage, as scared as I was, I got a standing ovation.
Wow.
And I was like, Ms. Argue, when's the next show? When's the next show? So that's how it began. You know, I fell in love with the stage, which in turn drew me more to the act of writing and exploring that expression. And it was just, you know, it was just this organic growth, this organic discovery, and something I just fell in love with.
Yeah. That's a beautiful origin story, because one of the things that I find, especially, I do a lot of poetry workshops in school. We do a couple of poetry programs through my family foundation. And what I find really difficult is to get young people to like connect with the words. They are so visually stimulated. So like videos and pictures, even music, they are more in tune with like the beat than they are to like the lyrical content. So it's always just like a heavy lift to get the kids to fall in love with the words. But we always find that gem, that one or two student that just has a beautiful relationship with and can articulate words in such a beautiful way that is even more mature than one would expect from someone that age. So
it's such a beautiful art, and for me, you know, having that early moment, it made me want to explore more. You know, you put something on the page and see your thoughts on the page. It was like, oh my God, like wow, like I thought of that. That's and then to share it and then to get a positive reaction, you know, and it just grew. That love, it just grew. And it's something so powerful about putting those words on the page, you know. So yeah, I applaud anybody who's willing to take that courageous leap, because it's definitely a vulnerable space. So to take that leap and to find that strength to do it is incredible.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
You know, both of us have academic backgrounds. Kai and myself, we are professors and all of that good stuff when we're not on this mic and on this podcast. And so I shout out to the teachers that see something in you that we don't, you know, that maybe we don't as the individuals see. So I'm so glad Miss argued you down and got you up on stage.
Oh yeah, I love me some Miss Argue. Love her.
And she's still living. She's well.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
We actually had lunch before the COVID hit, Corona and all
So
that.
we locked down.
Yeah. So we had lunch. I think back in February, just to reconnect. And we talk here and there. Whenever something big happens, you know, I call her up. Like, Ms. Argue, you know, this happened, and it wouldn't have happened without you. Like, if you hadn't, you know, encouraged me, none of this would have happened. So yeah,
that's
love
beautiful.
love Ms. Argue.
That is beautiful.
And all the teachers, I love, man, applause to y'all, because you know y'all save lives.
Especially in this time, which is kind of my follow-up question. We are dealing with the pandemic. We are now dealing with some social justice unrest that's been quelling below the surface for, you know, many years at this point. So, you know, the activities of today and what's happening in response to the dear brother that lost his life, to the dear sisters that have lost their lives, is no shock to me. But as artists, I always say that, you know, we're the curator of stories. We if you look at what's happening in the art form of poetry, especially, you can tell what's happening in the time. So what in your work has captured these types of moments, whether it's due to the pandemic, due to some deep racial divide or injustice that has occurred? What is represented in your work for these types of stories?
Yeah, I continue to write and poetry that reflects the times. So I've been penning a lot, been taking it all in and trying to make sense of it all and still have that silver lining in the poetry, which is, I believe, that we will get through this. I believe that good will prevail. I believe that, that love will win, good will win. So a lot of that is reflected in my poetry, whether it's me talking about, the loss from the coronavirus, or, folks suffering from unemployment or civil unrest because of police brutality and loss of life, like with George Floyd, a lot of that unrest has existed in my art over the years, because this injustice continues to exist in our lives. So again, my poetry it's reflective of what I see, what I feel. I'm always exploring. We being Pisces, we take those deep dives and we explore feelings and consciousness and awareness, and then just trying to always remember to try and infuse some joy into it, even when it's heavy, even when it's hard, even when you feel like crying and screaming and yelling at the walls. It's important that we find some joy, because to me, you got to have balance in it. And so I'm always looking to infuse some inspiration, some motivation, like, just a reminder of things which we already know, which is we go get through this. We go get through this. Yeah.
We have to get through this, and with most of us intact in every way that we possibly can be, and that's just real. That's just real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, I kind of want to get your take on what's the pulse right now in your sphere of influence or networks regarding the future of artists and even the craft of poetry. Is there prospecting? Is there conversations in spaces? My sis had mentioned her programs featuring getting younger kids introduced to poetry and stuff. Are we having these conversations yet in your sphere of influence or your network?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having them all the time. I had a meeting earlier today. I'm currently the president of the Chicago Grammy chapter, and a big focus of mine is to raise awareness in the poetry community regarding the spoken word category. Because a lot of us, we just we're unaware of the process, and real quick, in a nutshell, it's make sure you put your work into the marketplace, and once you have your work into the marketplace, make sure you're submitting to the Recording Academy for that category. So we're actually working on an event right now. Originally it was set for April, but everything's gone virtual, so we're looking to do something in July, to one, highlight incredible voices, but then at the same time raise awareness, so folks will understand the process, and we can see more poets and storytellers and spoken word artists in that category, because as of late it's been dominated by audiobooks. And so we want to see more poets, and outside of the Recording Academy, I'm always talking with artists. I'm always talking with poets. Jessica Care Moore, she's a good friend of mine, so we're always talking about it, and Like how can we, continue to lift up the art, because we're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we continue to lift those up that are coming up next, and show them a way, help them how we can, share advice, any way we can, just to let people know. And I have a show that I do on every Wednesday. I started during the what is this thing called? Quarantine, right? Lord have mercy. So,
we've been in it so long.
So long, I forgot what it is. I'm just at home. It went from the quarantine to I'm at home. I'm at the crib. So I always wanted to have a podcast. So I decided to start a Wednesday night show. It's called The Word, Poetry and Conversation. So even on my show, I'm having discussions with, like last week I had on Sonny Patterson from New Orleans.
I caught a piece of that.
Yeah, I had Jessica Caramore on. She was actually on the second episode. Abiodun Oyewole of The Last Poets, he was on. Yeah, so constantly having conversation of the power of poetry and the power of the word and the power of communication, and us making sure we're the authors of our story, and making sure that we're the ones documenting what we're seeing out in the world. So yeah, to answer your question, that's a long answer, but yes, I have a lot of conversations regarding the importance of poetry, and continue to put a very bright light on the art form.
I'm so happy to hear that. That is tremendous. I know in school systems, especially, K through 12, the arts, especially music and those other spaces of performance, are usually the first to get cuts. And let's be honest, now that we've been at home virtually, child, if mama ain't tooting on the piano or trying to get you interested in it's really up to the home structures or the community structures to fill in this gap, because we don't have this, they choose not to. Because I've learned that they can do a whole lot in a very short amount of time. Okay, we all winking and nodding right about now, but I'm very encouraged to hear that, because these are conversations that need to continue if we are to, if this has been a mainstay for us for survivance.
Right, absolutely.
For problem solving. When our ancestors wrote, "Follow me down to the drinking gourd," that took some type of ingenuity. Now y'all all know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we gotta talk about it like this, put a little rhythm to it, put a little, whatever it was.
Right.
We are very much talking about not only the art form, but our ancestral roots that belong to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, I'm all in my us feelings tonight.
Yeah. No, that's real.
Mess with me, don't mess.
That's real. Our words are their roadmap, to freedom, to our souls, to new perspective, to discovering self, to finding purpose, to, like you said, problem solving. I got to know me through poetry. I had no idea who I was until Miss Argue pushed me into that direction, and I started to explore, these writings. And I always describe it as like each poem that I wrote was like a little piece of mirror, and and the mirror would stack up and stack up and stack up, and then at some point I finally saw myself, and I was like, oh wow, like that's me. Like it was this, the self-discovery was amazing, and that came through poetry. That came through putting my feelings on the page, and when I didn't feel like I had anyone else to talk to, or I was afraid to talk to anyone, poetry allowed me to find that comfort and find myself.
That's beautiful. And I think for us, whether you're, self-proclaimed poet, award-winning poet like yourself, or someone who likes to write down things, you do discover a lot about yourself. And sometimes that's shocking. Sometimes you embrace it, but a lot of times you're like, wait a minute, I'm a little more petty than I thought.
Oh. Oh, we're here now.
Right. Or, like, okay, maybe I need to move more into this direction regarding my consciousness, or, my ability to articulate about social justice, or whatever. It's like, it's such an amazing journey to find yourself and your voice in something that you've written down, especially when you can go back and be reflective about it.
Yeah.
That's the best part, going back, and rediscovering what you wrote once upon a time. Oh my God. It's like, wow, like I wrote that. Like, wow, and then I wish I did a better job at like really documenting exactly where I was. I'm good at putting the dates down.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and usually where I'm at, but like, what was the mode? What was happening on that day? What was the feeling? What was like, what was the exact, thing that was happening at the time that that pushed me in the direction of that thought and that idea. Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing.
I was just sitting here thinking, and that I have a perfect example that speaks to that. Sis, I saw him back in my 20s, girl, when I was sneaking up at the Michigan State Chair. We was having ourselves a good old time. And there was this event called Fake the Funk. And that was the Black event. It was the premier event. I mean, I'm telling you, it was hosted and posted up that weekend. Lots of activities, vendors, performers, and everything. And my friend, our good friend, was hosting it. And so it was a group of us that were supporting him. And so that's how I got a chance to meet him. I still remember your performance from that night.
Wow.
Angel got his wings. And hey, you had dreads back then. Am I right?
Yeah. I was draping on them.
Right.
I was draping on them.
We love it. But I remember that that piece of it, because when he finished, I remember you standing up on the stage, and I don't know how they did it. They did the light show where it kind of went black and then it faded into the white. Girl, I'm way past and older than what I was then, and I still remember that.
That's amazing. I remember that show. I remember that.
Do you?
Yeah, that show, man, it changed my life, because I remember meeting a friend, his name Ahmad or Aman Grimes. You remember Ahmad? Do you know Ahmad?
Yeah, I do. I haven't heard that name in a long time, man.
So I remember meeting him, and then he a short time after that he produces.
Right.
So he got a production deal in Nashville, and he moved to Nashville. And then I'll start working on really, start focusing on working on music, putting my poetry with music. So I start hitting him up like, yo, we want to get some music done. So I started going to Nashville to work with him. Then while in Nashville, I met a manager. And then the manager I met is who helped get me on Def Poetry.
Oh my gosh.
So that all happened, it was some things that led up to Michigan State. With Michigan State, it was just this domino effect, and Michigan State was a big part of that. So I never, when people, I usually go back. I usually remember like every show as a trip. Maybe not the full detail of it, but I remember those moments. Even if they were years ago, it's weird how that happens. But yeah, I remember that. I remember the excitement of coming up there and the packed house. And
it was huge.
Oh, it was a lot of people there. I was like, this is off the chain.
It was all the way live, wasn't it?
Off the chain. All the way live. I remember that.
Listen, I called in to work the next morning. I done faked the funk too much this weekend. I'm gonna take what is it? Personal day, vacation, sick. Y'all work it out. I'm at the crib, okay?
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
So much fun.
There is. So, audience, if you were here with us, you would see that the good brother Jay Ivy is sitting in front of some awards.
Oh yeah.
And
my little buddies.
And things, these things that are behind him. So you have quite an impressive list of accomplishments. The Super Bowl commercial that my sis had referenced earlier, you were named the Poet Laureate, and you are a Grammy Award winning poet. Tell us a little bit about the accolades of poetry, because for most of us, myself included, you know, you do your poems, you have your people who love what you do, and they be like, you know, go on, sis, and then it's over. You know what I'm saying? But you have something that has been elevated, and so talk about that and what that feels like being, you know, a kid that came from the south suburbs. I live in the south suburbs too, so I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. And I think Miss Argue is my soror's mama, so we are deltas too. So
Oh yeah, my wife a Delta.
all right.
See, you like you already adopted. That's it.
Yeah, Deltas. My godmom is a Delta, so she was the first Delta in my life. Then there was Miss Argue. Similar story happened in college. My English professor, she came across. I took one of my poems. I wrote a poem for this girl, and a friend of mine read it in her class, and she was like, "Oh man," she was like, "I got this show coming up. I want you to write a poem and perform it in the show." And I was like, "Oh man, yeah, absolutely." Because I was on campus that hadn't done any shows. I was trying to figure out how to get back on stage. And her name's Melda Potts. She was a Delta, so she was very instrumental. And then my wife, Tari Teray, she went to Mississippi Valley State.
Oh,
and,
she plays in the
I'm an honorary Delta gent, you know.
Right?
Honorary.
You earned it. Which leads me to.
We didn't talk about his abuse.
Oh yeah.
We went on. Yeah, back to what you were saying.
So to answer your question, like I've been very, very blessed to be surrounded by amazing people who have always helped, always, you know, pulled my chain, like, yo, we working on this, working on that. You think you can come do this? So, you know, to be in company with great people is amazing. It's an amazingly grateful feeling. To be on a Grammy winning album with Kanye and Jay-Z, and to have that moment to even, you know, meet a John Stevens, and, you know, and be in a room like, yo, I'm gonna start calling you John Legend, and then that sticks.
Right.
Like, to have friends like my buddies Cootie and Chike, they're amazing directors. They hit me up like, we're working on a Muhammad Ali documentary for BET, and we want you to poetically narrate it. Like, Muhammad Ali, like, are you serious? Like, yeah, absolutely, it would be an honor. So to be a part of this film, which was the last documentary that was released before he passed, and the family, they said he watched it. They said he would always, you know, watch everything that came out about him. So to be a part of that, to know Ali saw me work, and saw the art, and then to be awarded an Image Award for that, and then we turned around and we did a Martin Luther King documentary, and they had me poetically narrate that. And we went down to Memphis and to the Lorraine Motel, and I was able to do a poem. Yeah, they let us out on the balcony, and I actually performed a poem standing on the mark where Dr. King was shot and assassinated, and to be standing there and perform the poem for one of my heroes was, I mean, it was, you know, I'm still processing all of those feelings, you know. That was one of those moments I called Miss Argue, like, man, remember when you had me doing Martin Luther King speeches in high school, and listen to what I just did, you know. So we were nominated. We got a nomination for that, to be a part of Def Poetry, and that, you know, see that won a Peabody, and got this guy for my book. This is a Clio Award, you know. So
I like the framing of your situation too. It's just, it says something rhetorically without
Yeah.
saying something. It's just that.
Yeah, I've been around the block. I've been around the block, and I'm always amazed, by the just the love that the work gets, and being a part of projects that gets that type of love is amazing. It's amazing, So yeah, Def Poetry kicked it off. That was the first big one, and then right after that was the College Dropout, and that was a humongous moment. So yeah, it's just been blessing after blessing, So extremely grateful.
Now, would you get on one of them shows like Wildin' Out with Nick Cannon where they start capping on each other? I can't imagine you capping on nobody. Let me put it this way. I don't want to imagine you capping on nobody.
I've been to the show. I don't know about being on the stage for that. I don't know. Who knows? I ain't gonna say no. I'm open. It would have to be in the right light, though. It had to be cool, fun, and I had to have my jokes tight.
That improv that they do on that show,
man, it's crazy.
Is just, they are so quick-witted and funny. You have to be prepared for it.
Oh,
I'm just like, I am a true Pisces. I'm sensitive. So you write something about, that like one of my eyebrows is hiding the other. I'm done. I'm walking
right?
like, why you gotta do that? No.
Oh, it's crazy. A couple of my buddies on there, so D. Ray Davis and Corey Holcomb. So I see them. Those are, when it comes to funny and comedy, those are the best of the best. So it's like, I don't know about that.
Listen, it'll be tight. It'll be tight.
Yeah. I'd rather sit in the audience with a tear on my cheek,
From laughing, right?
I ain't made for it. I'm not built for it. I'm good with words, but like, it's just, like one of the things people ask me all the time as a poet, they say like, why don't you slam? And I'm like, I can't take the competition edge of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to create my vibe. I want, atmospheric pressure to be appropriately situated. Like, it's so much tense and competition head to head and like coming for people's souls, and I built like that.
I've never been a slam poet either, and a big part of that is because of Ms. Argue. So when I first started writing, she said, poetry is from the heart, it's from your soul. So how can I put a grade on that? And so from that point, I was like, well, how can anybody judge my heart and my soul? And I remember early on, I did maybe performed at like 2 slams, and they were both out of Chicago. They were both in Philly, actually. So it was a way for me to get to Philly and perform in front of a Philly crowd. And oh my God, I poured my whole soul on the stage. And I remember them taking points off because I went over the time. I was like, no, this ain't. Yeah, like you can't put that things in a box. For poetry to be so free, I disagree with the box. That's just not for me. I have a huge respect for slam poets and people that occupy that lane.
Yeah.
But because this definitely is skill and an art to it. But I don't know, maybe it's a Pisces thing, but I like to be free with it and not have those constraints on me.
Mm-hmm.
Create the space, the stage becomes, at least when I go up, the stage becomes not a stage. It becomes like me floating through time. It's like I oftentimes don't even see the people out there.
Yeah.
It's just like sparkly and beautiful and dark, with ribbons of purple and pink. It's like it's a whole different like vibe. And that's probably why I got on my mama's nerves talking like that, talking about, Mom, in my atmosphere, it is sparkly. Here, showering stars. She'd be like, when I asked you to clean the bathroom, what does that got to do? What you talking about?
I love it. I love it.
Oh, that is
And the
hilarious.
atmosphere is sparkly.
Listen, I got to get into this book, especially with things that are happening right now. Your book is called Dear Fathers, and it was a letter. We'll get into how that sorted out, but I know that Dear Fathers, breaking the cycle of pain. You did a tour upon the book's release. When did this book come out again? I didn't quite find that.
It was 2015, January 27th, 2015.
All right, all right. And
Yeah.
so the project was born out of you again in that space of reflecting and putting together that healing for your part of your life. Would that be accurate in saying that?
Very, very accurate. Yeah. I mean, it was exactly that. It was a cry out for I guess not. I don't want to say help, but just a cry out for enough. I was really tired of feeling low. I was tired of the disconnect that I felt that existed between me and my father. My father, he was in my life when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Then my folks got divorced, and I didn't see hear from my father for 10 years, and we reconnected. But after we reconnected, a year and a half later, he passed away. So I was going through this roller coaster of emotions, from depression to anger to sadness, and it got to the point where I was really, really tired. I got real good at wearing a mask, and hiding how I really felt. I got good at smiling and feeling good when I was amongst people, but when I was back home, that weight, that heaviness would find me very quickly. And I took that into relationships. I took that into how I treated people, how I treated myself. And it got to the point where I was really just tired. I was just tired of feeling that way. And I go into this was after Def Poetry. I'd done Def Poetry, and I moved to New York, and I was living in Brooklyn and Bed-Stuy, and my mother called me and snapped. My mother, my mom's called me and lit into me. She was like, "Boy, what's wrong with you?" She was like, "I know something going on. You ain't been talking to me. You ain't been talking to Tari. What's going on?" And so for the first time, I opened up to my mom's about how I felt, in regards to my pops. And she listened, and then she just lit into me, said, "Look, your father was a good man. Let him rest in peace." And hearing that, just hearing your mama just speak to you, one, you're gonna listen, and then hearing her truth, and then having a moment to say, you know what, yeah, my father was a good man. He was just hurt. I can understand being hurt because I'm hurt. So if somebody hurt him and he never got past that moment, I was at a point in my life where I was able to empathize and say, oh, okay, I get it. You were hurt, and you just never got over it. So in that moment, I really, yeah, he's a good man, and I decided that I truly, truly wanted to forgive. Like, I've forgiven before, but those feelings came back, and I was like, I did want to truly forgive and do like my mom said, and let him rest in peace. So I started writing this poem, and it was a poem I tried writing, but after I got off that call with her, it just poured out, and there were tears on top of the poem, but right after writing it, it was like this weight just lifted up off of me. I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And I felt that connection that I was looking for in my pops. It did resurface. I was able to, hear his voice. I did feel like he was at ease. I do see opportunities happen, and the only explanation I have is God and my dad up there, working and protecting and opening up doors. Even with the book, my pops, he passed November 15th of 99. Years later, on November 15th, I get a call from the owner of this publishing company about offering me a book deal to write this story about my relationship with my father. And it was this same day. And I just looked up at, I said, okay, Dad, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Like let's go. Let's go. You know, so I feel like every time I perform it, you know, people, you know, they hear it. And I tell people, like, it may sound like a sad piece, but it's actually the happiest poem I've ever written, because it made me a much better person, a much better man. And I feel like my dad is there with me. Like I can feel him. You know, I remember, like, even before having this healing moment, years ago, I moved to North Carolina. One of my buddies, you know, I was down, I was depressed, going through it. And he was like, I wasn't working, didn't have shows, everything was just, you know, slow. This was before Def Poetry and all that. And he convinced me to come down to North Carolina. And he's like, man, he was going to Winston-Salem State. And he was like, man, you should come down here and go to school. He was like, man, the weather nice, there's plenty of jobs, the girls, they fine as hell. You know, I was like, all right, I'm on the way.
You out.
I'm on the way.
You in the
Right. Here I come. So I went down, and he was like, man, I'll hook it up where you can perform at my homecoming. So I went down to perform at his homecoming, and I ended up staying. And I was down there like 7 months. And
7 months? You stayed.
Yeah, I stayed, got a job. I went down there on I think it was a Tuesday. I think I drove out on a Tuesday. I got lost, so I got there on Wednesday. And then the homecoming was that Friday. And then that next Monday, I called the temp agency. They called me back Tuesday, like, come fill out an application. Wednesday, they called me, like, you starting on Monday. I said, all right. It was, you know, paying good money. I was working at Pepsi. I mean, not good money, but good enough, you know,
right.
I could, you know, help pay rent and put money in my, you know, put gas in the car and all that. But while I was down there, you know, I was writing a lot, kicking it, having a great time, discovering myself. And I remember I was talking with a friend back in Chicago, and while I was on the phone, I forget what she said something, and I literally blanked out, and I had this vision, and in the vision, there were all these angels. It was like, and the angels were like, you know, it wasn't like people. It was like just beams of light. It was all these beams of light, and then for whatever reason, I looked over my shoulder, and mind you, my father was still living. I looked over my shoulder, and I saw my father's face. It was like he was there, like just like on, not on my back like a weight, but just like there. He was on there. I looked back, and he was just smiling at me, and I literally just, oh man, tears started pouring down, and I was, you know, I just had this, you know, like this feeling of, you know, everything's gonna be all right. You know, there was a spiritual connection that I felt, even though we weren't physically communicating. And I've always felt that, you know, in my walk and journey and exploration of what can I do with my poetry. Like, I always feel like my pops is there. I hear his voice. He speaks to me. And I know that things happen, you know, because of his help and his guidance and his protection. And so, yeah, man, I love my pops. Jim Richards is his name. And I do a lot of what he was doing, actually. You know, he was a DJ.
Oh.
Yeah, I would actually listen to my dad on the radio before I walked to school in the morning. You know, he had this incredible voice. His voice was, oh my God, his voice was incredible. You know, so I see all the similarities. You know, I do voiceovers, you know, for like commercials and stuff, and I'm like, man, I'm doing what Pops did. You know, I've seen pictures of him doing a play, and you know, people ask me come do an interview on the radio, and I'm like, man, this is what Pops was doing. And then my mom's would always say they would call him, his nickname was Preacher, because he was real good at talking and telling stories. And I was like, man, I'm sure he wrote too. That's the part I don't know for sure, but I'm sure he had to been a writer as well. So so yeah, like, man, love Pops, and the book, and writing that poem, which led to the book, was me saying, man, I forgive you, which ultimately helped me, and I pray that it helped him, and yeah, it's just been, it's been love, you know, and
Yeah.
and just a little quick segue, like shortly after that, is when I recorded Never Let Me Down. So for those who have ever heard the record, Never Let Me Down, which was on the College Dropout with Kanye and Jay-Z, a lot of the freedom that I felt, a lot of the I can do anything, a lot of I just defeated this pain is what's felt and heard and Never Let Me Down. You know, like Never Let Me Down would not have happened if I wasn't able to fight through, break through, forgive, and have that connection with my pops. So yeah. So dear Father, check it out.
You're speaking more truth to power than you know. You talking to two of the biggest daddy's girls ever. God bless them both in heaven. Now we both lost our fathers as well.
Oh,
And fathers, we both buried our moms too. So, you know, it's been a rough road, and we understand that. And to just hear you talk about your father in that way, just quickly being up under my daddy and always having, you know, he could do no wrong and neither could I in his eyes.
yeah.
But there was a point in time when my mom passed, she passed first, and he made a different choice, you know, what they did, and married somebody else. You know, he had a right.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best choice for me, but you know, it was what it was.
Right.
But you know, long story short, there was a space in our relationship where when you were saying that it was just a moment of saying, I really can forgive you.
Yeah.
I understand that there was a space. Our folks, I believe, really honestly, with the best intentions. Now I know everybody ain't a mama and a daddy now. We ain't gonna lie tonight. We ain't gonna lie tonight. But I'm thankful in this space, and I know my sis, and listening to you talk, we've had parents who honestly gave us the best of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, we've come from that generation where they really wanted more for us than they had.
Right.
Whether it was access. My father couldn't figure out how to do a lot of things, but his baby figured out how to get his baby classical piano lessons, only little black child there.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm thankful that you have gotten free in that space. And even as you were talking, I ain't gonna lie, it was a little note I wrote. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to get on that chapter. I gotta work on that. A lot of us are parented. This is something from my book that I'm working on. We're parented in the wounds of who our parents are.
Right.
Sometimes they're aware of those wounds, and sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that your project, from this poetry to free yourself and move into a different space, forgiveness is the old folks got that right. It really is for you. It really is for us.
Yeah, it
It
is.
really is to let us go. But your project went into, you know, talking to other fathers and all of that. Were there some moments or things that you heard on the road that you still take with you from that? And is there a part 2 coming?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out part 2, but there's absolutely been man, so many moments and testimonies and fathers reconnecting with their children, or children taking a leadership position and reaching out, because that was I won't say a regret, but I guess a wish. As a wish that I had is I wish I would have had the wherewithal to reach out to him at times, because, you know, maybe guilt was holding him back, maybe fear was holding him back, maybe the fear of being rejected was holding him back from reaching out. And I look back, I'm like, man, I could have called. I could have just picked up the phone, man. Hey, Pops, you good? Man, I just want to call, tell you I love you. Man, you need anything to eat? All right, you know, man, come check out the show. You know, so there were those moments. And so I share that with other people. So I've I've heard people say, man, I'm gonna call my pops, I'm gonna fix my relationship with my dad, you know, I'm gonna make sure that me and my father are good. Yeah, you know, I do need to forgive. People have told me that they were thinking about committing suicide,
Wow.
and they came across Dear Father in the video, and it shifted their mind, and they decided to not take their lives, you know. So
Mm.
when you hear things like that, one, you like, okay, this is way bigger than me. You
Right.
know, way bigger, you know. There's it's a reminder that there's a great responsibility with that we carry with our words,
Mm.
and 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 the energy that we put out there. It's extremely humbling, and it's also a reminder of how much hurt that's out there. I have a quote. It says, "You don't deal with your emotions. One day your emotions will deal with you."
Wow.
And with that, you know, I'm constantly working on reminding people that we all have hurt. None of us are perfect. We all need to be fixed in one way or another, and to try not to cast judgment without understanding, and 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 just, man, lead with love. Lead with
Mm.
love. You know, like the more understanding I had, you know, regarding my father, it things just made more sense, you know. And I know everyone isn't afforded that and afforded to hear about what happened to their parents and when they were children, you know, but once upon a time they were kids once upon a time. And I know with my dad, you know, his his mother passed when he was 4 years old,
Wow.
and they say he was in her arms when she passed. She was holding on to him
Mm.
when she passed, and they had to pull him away from her grasp. And my mom's would say that he would always talk about that moment. I'm like, that had been incredibly traumatic, you know. Like, my mom is still here, you know, but I know what it is to lose a parent,
Mm.
you know, to lose a father. I don't understand what it is to lose a mother. and you know, but I do know that any loss is great, you know. So for him to go through that, and then for him to lose his mama, and then to hear that he was abused, you know, after that, and he pretty much ran up out of Mississippi just trying to get away, and ended up in Chicago, just trying to get away from the abuse, you know, when he was a teenager. It's like, all right, my man's had it rough. You know,
Okay.
like he had it rough, and I can't imagine how I would have felt, you know, going through that, having to deal with that. So, you know, we have to get to a space where we don't look at our parents as these indestructible beings, you know, like they're superhuman and they don't have feelings, and, you know, they're supposed to. And it's like, man, they hurt just like we do, you know. So that, just having that empathy, it goes a long way. And I'm very happy I was able to get to that, you know, because like I said, I feel like just that spiritual connection is so strong.
First of all, I was almost crying. I pulled it together,
Right.
brother. I pulled it together. I was like, I'm not gonna cry on this broadcast today, but when we done, I'm gonna have to go ahead and let it out. But
Yeah.
I too was very, very close to my father. My father passed in 2017,
Mm,
and I still, in the moments where I need him the most, there's
yeah.
always some gust of wind
Yeah.
that has his scent in it.
Mm.
And my father smelled like a combination of cool cigarettes,
Not the
polo,
fools.
cool cigarettes, polo cologne, and Crown Royal, baby, with little patchouli in there. And if there's an incense called Blessing, it's
Mm.
a pink box. It smells just like him. So when I, when I need him the most, that scent just happens to come.
I
But I
love it.
burn that scent in my house all the time because I feel like I need to have his spirit around me because he was my protector. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of crazy things happening in the world, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and just I think sometimes you just want to have a reminder that, you know, there's somebody else looking out for you. And
Absolutely.
that's a beautiful sentiment, at least for me. It makes me feel like, okay, today I don't quite feel like having to be the person I need to be in the world, but I'm all right. I'm gonna make it through. I got somebody that's got my back. So
Yeah.
hearing that story about seeing his face in the
His
beams of
essence.
life, that was
Mm.
that was just so beautiful. And I believe in angels, and I believe that our ancestors are here.
Mhm.
And we can talk another time about that, because I got a whole lot of stories about that. But I wanted to ask you a question. So we've had these versus battles that are happening, and you touched on earlier that, you know, you're not a slam poet, and you know, don't really like the structure of slam poetry, and I agree with you there. And you've worked with so many amazing artists. Who is on your list that you want to work with next?
Oh wow. Well, I'm
Dream
sad.
big. Pick anybody.
Yeah, I'm sad I never got a chance to work with Michael Jackson. I actually
Really?
it was something in my spirit that told me that was gonna happen one day. You know, I was like, hey, one day I'm doing something with Michael Jackson. Like I just felt it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, next, oh man. I mean, speaking of verses, it would be incredible to work with, man, Erica and or Jill. You know, like, it would be incredible to see what's some of my own. I would love to do something with Kendrick. Like Kendrick would be, oh man,
Kendrick Lamar, yeah, that would be good.
that would be
You know who I want you to work with?
Who's that? Who's that?
Let me get my request in. I would love, sis, you're going to like this too. I would love to see him work with Malcolm Jamal Warner.
What you know what's funny?
That would blow out. That's our, you know, he's been on the show and all of that good stuff. So I thought about that, because I was like, okay, if he do verses, I would like to see him and Malcolm go. I would love it.
And what's funny is he literally reached out to me.
What?
He sent me a shout out, which blew my mind, you know, because we've met I think we met once or twice. I remember meeting him in New York for sure at Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we met another time, but he sent me a shout like maybe a week and a half ago.
Wow.
Like a week and a half ago. He was talking to me about Never Let Me Down. He's like, man, he's like, I've never heard this album, and I just heard it, and he just sent me this, just sent me just a bunch of love. I was like, Malcolm Jamal Warner, like, you know, I'm typing back like man, brother, man, thank you, know, like it was like incredibly humbling, like it was so dope, like he was just so cool. And then we were both on. There was a Def Poetry reunion on last Saturday, May 23rd, which is Tari's birthday. They had 50 poets to come back together to perform for raising money for COVID relief for Mayor Ras Baraka in Newark. So it was raising money for Newark. And so I was on that show, and they actually had me kick it off. It was 50 poets, and I was the first one on the show. And he tweeted me and sent me a message like, man, you kicking it off, man, you bringing that energy. I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. So that I'm open to that. I'm open to that. He crossed my mind the other day. That may have been yesterday. He crossed my mind, but I'm absolutely open to that. That would be amazing.
Don't let me be in the DMs and I'd be like, hey, Malcolm, how you doing?
Yeah.
You left one off, sis. You left one off.
What?
It has to be a J. Ivy I love collaborative. You know,
there we go. I'm with it.
Come on with it.
I'm with it.
And you know, I'm from Chicago. He's from Chicago. He's from the South Suburbs. I'm from the South Suburbs.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
You know, just go ahead and just, you know, treat the people real quick. You know what
I'm
I mean?
I'm with it. You know, I love collaborating. Like I really like. At time, I feel like the best comes out when I collaborate.
Yeah.
There's just something about that exchange of energy.
Yes.
The exchange of ideas. It's just really it moves me. in a way of, I guess, the energy that people feel from slams, like that is like a positive competition. It's like coming up, you know, doing open mics and all that. It was like people were competing in a sense, like we were competing, but it wasn't a negative. People were inspiring each other. Mm-hmm. You know, I won't even say competing. People were constantly inspiring one another, and it made you, like, you heard 30 of the most incredible poets that you ever hear in your life, and you like, oh man, next week I'm coming with it. You know what I mean? Like I wanna make sure that I do for them what they've done for me. You know, I wanna like spark something in them, you know. So yeah, that push, that inspiration that comes from collaboration is amazing. So hey, I'm open to it. Yeah.
I love it.
Whew.
Oh my goodness.
I
know it. I feel like I should go write some. I might be in my basement in my, you know, like this, for about 10, 20 minutes, like this, you know.
Come on.
Oh Lord, let me telling you. Well, listen, this has been a great show. We want to end, of course, on this light note. We thank you for being vulnerable, for being yourself. If you've got some things that are upcoming and whatnot, let us know how we can support you. How can our listeners find you?
Yeah, so coming up is I have an album called Catching Dreams that I'll be releasing next month. I have my show every Wednesday, The Word, right now is on IG Live. Thinking about going to other platforms with it, but every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Chicago time.
That's 8 o'clock Detroit.
Chicago Standard Time. Please tune on in. You can catch my Instagram is the letter J_Ivy. That's J_IVY. My website is j-ivy.com. Twitter is the same, J_Ivy. And I'm constantly writing. I got some writing to get done tonight. Just capturing the moment, and I'll be putting out a lot of videos and a lot of poetry upcoming, from things I'm writing now to things associated with the album. And definitely working on some new books. So that's coming as well.
Nice.
But yeah, definitely you can catch me there. Yeah. IG is what I'm on the most. I'm on Facebook and all that good stuff too.
Well, if the folks are looking for us, of course, y'all are welcome to send us any comments or suggestions to thepisceslife@gmail.com. You can follow us on the Twitter at Pisces Podcast, one word. We're also on Instagram, and that's the Pisces Life Podcast. Sis, if they're looking for you, where can they find you at?
I'm at I am just Letitia, LETITIA. Everywhere you look, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Indeed. If they're looking for me, they can find me at Kai Loves You on Facebook and Twitter. Also on Instagram as Kai Loves You too. Just add the number. It's been a blessing. Thank you, brother, for your time today.
Thank y'all for having me. It was like truly, truly amazing talking with you all. I needed this smile. I was feeling heavy watching the news before this. So thank y'all. I needed this. And y'all keep being the light that you all are, and keep shining that love and light. Y'all are needed. We need that Pisces energy out there.
Hey.
We out of here, y'all. Peace out.
Right, peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.I.V.
Dear Dad, these words are being written and spoken because my heart and soul feel broken. I laugh to keep from crying, but I still haven't healed after all of my years of my goofiness and joking. You got me open, hoping this ill feeling will pass, won't last. I wear a mask so my peace won't ask for the truth. Truthfully speaking, the truth hurts, but I'm beyond hurting. I'm in pain. When I was a shorty, I thought you left because I wouldn't behave. Later on in life, I found out that it was the cane as well as other things. And with all the scars, it was hard, but I learned to forgive and forgave. I forgave you despite the fights, the tears, for all the years lost, wondering if I was loved. Sometimes all I needed was a call and a hug. I understand that people break break up and don't make up, and some relationships don't last forever. But why weren't we together? Mom could have found a new man, but where was I gonna find a new dad? Looking back, I wish would have begged me, but pleaded my case, because I felt like I didn't matter, like I was deleted and erased. I would cry, still cry so much that I get headaches. I try to get you off my mind, but I can't get you off of my face. I see you every time I see me, and I can't do nothing but ask God to bless me, because my love was amputated, my life was complicated, my family became dysfunctional. Dad, I remember when you pushed Mom, she broke her ankle, and I was sitting there thinking, how could you do this to such a beautiful angel? I remember Mom waking us up in the middle of the night saying, shh, Jimmy, put some clothes in the jewels bag. We're going to Grandma's, and if your father come up to your school, don't tell him where we'd be. I remember spending Christmas at Grandma's playing with my Stretch Armstrong, thinking, man, this ain't my house. How does Santa Claus find me? But the little boy in me still wants his daddy badly. I feel like a scared little boy afraid to become a man, but I think I'm ready. I wonder if you know that your baby boy did a show that aired for millions to see on HBO, and that hard-ass New York crowd that I didn't even know actually gave me a standing no. I wonder if you know. I know you're proud, because I'm be the best, just like you want to be. Watch and see, and just in case you can't, I'm going to scream it so loud that I shake the clouds and move them out the way of my sunshine, because that's what you are, Dad. James Ivy Richardson, see you, do you hear me? You are my sunshine. That's why I forgave you, because my love for you is still the same. It may have gone through a transformation, but it never really changed. So I swear on my mama and on my name, I'm going to stop this rain, conquer this pain, make sure that you do not die in vain. And when I get to heaven, I'm going to jump in your arms. We going to kick back like when I was little and watch the Bears game. I love you, Dad.